Hello, welcome to Microfiche Microphone. I'm Micah, and on this channel we look at microfiche from the past, old newspaper articles in the public domain. We look at them with our modern eyes, our modern perspective, and see what we can learn from them. On this microfiche time capsule, we are looking at the Ladies' Home Journal from December 1901. And this article is entitled Girls' Problems by Margaret E. Sangster. Alright, so I have read another article from this same author, and she prefers to write about very specialized people, so I'm a little bit surprised that she's doing more generalized article about girls' problems in general. So, I'm interested to see what she has written about, so let's find out what were considered girls' problems in 1901. Here's a Merry Christmas to all my girls, the merriest and brightest of their lives. And now for our question box, which this month is full to the cover. The first letter which I pick up is from a girl who says, I am busy in an office from 9 until 5 every day, but I have a home life too. A dear mother, 3 little brothers, social opportunities, pleasant friends, and invitations. How can I contrive to do my duty everywhere and keep the balance even? That's interesting. I didn't know that women could work full-time at that time unless they had very specific jobs. But it says that she works in an office, so I'm guessing she's probably a secretary just based on the age. I find that quite interesting. Hundreds of young women are so situated. Put your whole self into the thing in hand. Concentrate your attention there. Leave the office completely when you go home at night, and do not carry home cares to business in the morning. Choose among the social pleasures, and except in vacation time, take them sparingly, for a girl in business needs plenty of rest, and especially must have long nights of quiet sleep. Walk between home and office if you possibly can. The regular outdoor exercise will do much in enabling you to keep your poise. I like that advice. That's really good advice. You know, a good home life balance in the event of leave business at the office, go home, rest, get plenty of sleep. I really like this. That's very good general advice to everyone. That's not particularly for women in general, but it's just it's for everybody. I think everyone should take that advice. Very good. So far, check. That's a great piece of advice, yeah? To whom shall this girl yield? I am, and have been for 5 years, engaged to be married. But duty to my infirm grandfather, whose mind is failing, keeps me from settling the wedding day. My fiancé has grown impatient and thinks I do not love him, but I cannot see my way to leaving the dear old man who was good to me in my orphaned childhood. Oh, that's really sweet. Long engagements are usually trying and very undesirable. If your betrothed has waited 5 years and sees only an indefinite period of waiting before him, it is no wonder that he is weary of it. You should give him the option of a release from the engagement if you are resolved not to marry while your grandfather lives. Possibly some comfortable arrangement can be made elsewhere for the old gentleman, or he may go to live with you in your new home if you marry. Look at the situation in every light, and remember that you owe a duty to yourself as well as to your relative. Also, amazing advice. Yeah, long engagements are difficult. Yeah, I've been engaged for 5 years. Yeah, that's my question. Why don't you just get married and continue to care for your grandfather? There's no reason you can't do both. I'm wondering if there's some sort of stipulation, some sort of reason why that's not possible, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't. Yeah, go ahead, get married, and then see what happens. But, however, it also depends. If your fiancé is not willing to allow you to care for your grandfather, and he means that much to you, then you might want to think again about whether or not you really want to marry this person. But other than that, I think that's also some very, very good advice. I love that they suggest giving your fiancé the option of leaving if that's what he wants. Yeah. So I do like that as well, because that is fair to everyone. How well do we know this book borrower? An acquaintance is continually borrowing my books, and returns them much worse for wear. She has had in her possession a volume belonging to a valuable set for nearly 6 months. Shall I ask her to send it home? Yeah, you need have no delicacy in making such a request. Books are property, and when borrowed, they should be carefully protected from injury and promptly returned to their owners. I doubt the propriety of borrowing a book if one is near a lending library, We do not borrow shoes or gloves or furniture, and why should we make an exception for books? I think the owner of a set should hesitate to let a single volume go out of her possession. Either make a loan of the entire set or give your friend permission to consult it in your home. At all events, ask the lady in all politeness to return the book to its place on your shelves. I don't quite agree with that. I think lending books is pretty normal. Lending shoes, not so much. Like, they probably won't fit, and it's probably kind of gross, and, like, most people don't like the idea of loaning gloves, loaning or shoes or furniture. Well, furniture, of course, you have to use it, I mean, you don't have just random furniture in your home. Although it has happened to me before that someone loaned me a piece of furniture for a baby. So, I don't know. Maybe. So I disagree on that point. But, yeah, asking for it back, if they've had it for a while, absolutely ask for it back. Absolutely ask for it back. You don't have to give it to them. Yeah. Meeting strangers in business offices. My business position is of a peculiar kind. I have to receive people and in some case entertain them, while they wait in the anteroom of my employer, a specialist of eminence. How shall I guard against undue familiarity from strangers? Ooh, are they flirting with you? That's awkward. Like, ugh. Oh, that was like a time before there was like this professionalism, although it can still be a problem today, so... In almost every place where young women are at work, they meet strangers, and the woman who is not thinking of herself and is absorbed in her duties is seldom annoyed by unwelcome notice or attention. Be impersonal. Simply perform whatever your office requires, with courtesy indeed, but with the aloofness that comes of preoccupation. One's work is always one's best shield. So they're basically kind of blaming her. I don't like this. That's a difficult point because... she has to be friendly to the people who come in, and she must be a very open, kind person, and people are assuming that she's flirting with them, or they are flirting with her, whether or not she's flirting with them, either way. And they're suggesting that she's not being professional. Like, yeah, that's a good advice to say be impersonal, and your work is your best shield. Yes and no, because it sounds like her job is partly entertaining people. So I imagine this is really a problem. So I feel like this person giving advice is kind of telling her that she is being too friendly, when actually it's the people, it's the clients who aren't seeing that line in the sand and just stepping right over it. Yeah, don't victim blame, okay? I didn't like that one. All right, desperately afraid of the dark. I am 18 years old and desperately afraid of the dark. Can this terror be overcome? Ooh, a phobia. Why, certainly. You are probably a little nervous and run down, or you may have been frightened by some foolish person when you were a child. Ask yourself if it is a tangible danger you fear, or if it is simply night itself. Sleep in either case with a low shaded light in your room. Satisfy your mind that you have no reason to be afraid by that investigation of closets and the limbo under the bed at which the brave are inclined to laugh. Exert your will to conquer this bondage, and also say your prayers and take comfort in knowing that God hears you. The darkness and the light are both alike to him. Okay, that's not terrible advice, let's say. Like having a low light? Yeah, absolutely. Get a night light, yeah? Something that you wouldn't mind keeping on during the nighttime. And, assure yourself that there's nothing hidden anywhere. And then actually the advice to pray, that can be quite calming for many people. I don't see that as a bad piece of advice, assuming that this person does believe in God. But obviously if they don't, then it's not helpful. But all right, where rich girls sometimes err. My father is rich and I have plenty of money, but I wish to put my talents to account. I can afford to teach for a very small salary. Some of my friends think I have no right to do so. Oh, she has no right to be a teacher because her father is rich and she doesn't need the money? No, absolutely not. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see. You will see by a little thought that you must not take advantage of some equally well-equipped girl who cannot afford to work for less than a living wage by underselling her in the market. Okay, yeah, so don't agree to work for less than you should, yeah? For instance, in a certain school, $500 has been paid annually to a college graduate for a definite grade of work. You may step in and take the place at $200 and you may do good work, but you will, for all future time, have lowered the rate which that school will pay, and you will be taking bread for the mouth of some girl who has to support herself and perhaps assist her parents. It is your privilege to work, but on a business basis only. This principle applies to every wage-earning work which a rich girl can undertake. Yeah, okay. I understand where they're coming from, and I believe that that is correct. Yes, absolutely. Don't accept less than you are worth simply because you don't need the money. Yeah? Because you are kind of sabotaging the person after you. That is one point. But I don't actually think that that was the point of the question. I felt like her friends were saying that she doesn't have a right to take a job anywhere simply because she doesn't need the money, which I disagree with. If she wants to work, she's allowed to work whether or not she needs the money, so she's not going to pay attention to the amount of salary. However, she should watch that it is a fair salary anyway. So, I feel like they just missed the mark a little bit. But I could be wrong. I mean, maybe that was her question. So, you never know. It's hard to say exactly. All right, the question of a mother-sister. Their mother is dead, and I am taking her place to my little half-sisters. 2 of them have remarkable gifts in music and drawing, but dislike to go to school. What shall I do? Oh, that's a rough place to be in. So this adult sister is taking care of her half-sisters. Their gifts can as yet be only in the dawn, and they should not be allowed to neglect the essentials of a good English education. For the present, you would better insist on regular attendance at school. If the children are possessed of genius, they will thank you in future years for the discipline of daily drudgery now. That is definitely a person who would need advice because they're probably very young, not prepared to be a parent, and didn't come by it naturally where you would see the child grow up and they would see you as an authority figure. She might have to assert her authority as their sister and say, I'm sorry, but you have to go to school. This is not optional. This is a definitive, yes, you have to. So I did appreciate that advice. I think that that person needs a support system. She needs someone who she can go to and ask these kind of questions. It's sad that she had to write to a newspaper for it. Will editors read my stories? Will you be frank and tell me whether editors read stories sent by new writers? Mine are as good as most which are published, yet they always come back. Most assuredly, my dear, do editors read manuscripts. Last summer, the editor of the Ladies' Home Journal devoted a whole page to this very subject. We actually read that one, yeah? Look over your back numbers and read his words. Look, too, at his editorial page this month. Suppose you were a dressmaker and had never been taught how to cut and fit gowns. Would you expect people to patronize you until you had learned your trade? Most new writers are very crude, and they send their immature productions to compete with those of trained pens. I observed 3 errors in spelling in your letter, and I fancy that you have read and studied very little. Only those who can see and can tell have any open sesame to literary success. But a better preparation for you just now will be found in much well-chosen reading than in too much writing. Ooh, she's trying to gently tell this girl, you need to improve your writing before it's going to be published. And particularly her grammar and spelling. I imagine her ideas are probably fairly good, but it doesn't mean that she knows how to write them properly. So that is a point, you have to know how to spell and use proper grammar if you're going to be a writer. So those people who think that they can be a writer without, that's absolutely not true. Not unless you're planning on self-publishing everything. A girl who feels she is overlooked. In a society to which I belong, other girls are elected to offices, but in 3 years I have not even been asked to serve on a committee, and I am thinking of resigning. I would not resign for that reason. It would be too childish. Have you not seen little children form societies in which all insisted on being officers? If I can't be president, I won't belong, the pouting midget declares. Okay, that's a little ableist there. There is always plenty for the rank and file to do, and your turn will come one of these days if you are faithful in attendance and in taking your share, whatever it is. Don't be a baby. Holy cow. That's quite harsh. That is quite harsh. Calling her a child and then saying don't be a baby at the end. I think that not being asked to be on a committee at all, like, yeah, you are kind of being overlooked. I think, I completely disagree with this assessment. I think what she should do is go to the president or vice president or whatever of this organization that she is in, express her desire to do something and to be in charge of something, and see if there's something that would make sense for her to be in charge of. I understand that desire to be in charge of something. Like, I think that's pretty natural. And if you've been in part of it for 3 years and nobody seems to care about you, like, yeah, you would feel discouraged after a while. That's not being babyish. That is just wanting to be needed. I understand that. Like, that, I don't like that advice. The notion of an old-fashioned mother. I am 15 and treated like a child. Oh, the complaint of every 15-year-old. Mother refuses to let me go to parties and objects to my walking up and down in the street with the boys on our block. Other girls do this. My mother is very old-fashioned. Oh my gosh, how incredibly stuck up and entitled that child sounds. Gosh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. It's probably because I'm old enough to have a child that age. I don't quite, but, you know, theoretically I could. And yeah, like 15-year-olds, would I allow them to go to parties? Depends on the party and who they're going to be there with. I would say a maybe. Certain parties, yes. Other parties, no. Allowed to walk up and down the streets with boys on our block. As long as they're within full view of everyone, okay? But don't be ducking into corners and stuff. Like, a 15-year-old is quite young to be having, like, a serious relationship. And then if my child complained that I was old-fashioned, I would just be like, yeah, you're right. And that would be my answer. Like, I wouldn't even fight it. So, but I think this is normal for a 15-year-old. That's raging hormones speaking. All right, let's see what the advice was. One of the greatest boons a young girl can have is a sensible, old-fashioned mother. At 15, you have enough to occupy you without parties, and with school and helping in the housework, and your mother is quite right in refusing you the liberty which you say that other girls enjoy. I am sorry for those other girls. Ooh. Yeah. Like, at 15, you're not going to appreciate your mother and her restrictions. However, they are for your own good at the end of the day. Like, is it worth teen pregnancy to be like the other kids? I'm just asking. Obviously, I don't know if it would have gone to that point, but, you know, it's just, like, that would be what I would be concerned about as a mother. And that's probably what her mother is concerned about. So, let's just avoid that and completely. And, you know, you can go to some things, but not everything. And if the mother says, I think you're too young to go to this party, then you're too young to go to the party, you know? I wouldn't allow you to go to a drinking party at age 15. Yeah? All right. Gets in debt for holiday presents. My list of friends is very long, and the holidays leave me deeply in debt. I have to buy half of my presents on credit, but I feel obliged to give something in return for the gifts I receive. Oh, okay, just stop it. Plus, you could also find inexpensive gifts to give, like, or you could make something like that. No, this is terrible. Don't do this. Do not do this. I'm sure people do this today. Don't do this. You don't have to spend a fortune on your presents. Okay. You indicate a weak spot in our Christmas giving. There should never be even the suggestion of a necessary return in kind. Rather than incur debt, be independent and give no presents. Merely sending a letter with your good wishes to those at a distance. Absolutely. And saying a cheery word to those at home. Christmas is ruined when it becomes a burden. Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. Yeah, don't go into debt to give presents. How to get in touch with modern things. I feel that my education is sadly deficient, and I am ignorant of modern subjects. I cannot converse intelligently on any line. I would like to take up some course which would put me in touch with modern questions and at the same time fill up the many vacant spaces with the past. Okay, that's an actual point. I think that reading the newspaper would be helpful. Another thing I would suggest is to get more involved in, like, certain societies that talk about modern, like, questions. So at this time, I mean, today I would say be more active on social media, pay more attention to the words people use. Yeah. Okay, you would be better join a class which under competent leadership is studying current events. If you are, yes, current events like newspapers, yeah, read the newspaper. If you are engaged in the daytime, join such a class in the evening. The Young Women's Christian Association in your town will furnish you with an opportunity. Here's a suggestion, yeah. In familiarizing yourself with the history which is now making, you will take hold of many threads which reach into the remote past. 6 girls last winter pursued a legal friend to give them lessons in common law, especially the law as it bears on the property rights of women, and incidentally they were carried back to Greece and Rome and learned many interesting facts in modern history. Do not worry at your inability to converse. That will disappear as you grow older and gain more confidence in yourself. Do not forget that there are always 2 parties to every conversation, and she who talks and she who listens. A good listener is invariably popular, and to listen well, one must pay attention and be interested in what is said. 2 faults are often seen illustrated in companies of otherwise polite people, that of inattention, which is very rude, and that of interruption, which is almost inexcusable. I would rather be known as a good listener than a brilliant talker. Read the daily papers diligently for reports of news, not that you may read sensational happenings, and they will help you much. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what I said, like join a community, you know, some sort of group, and also to read the newspapers, keep up with current events. Yeah, absolutely. And also be a good listener. I think that was also very good advice, so I like that one. Then at the end it says, all during 1902, Mrs. Sangster will answer in this way any problems which girls may choose to send her, replying by mail whenever asked, and a stamp is sent. Mrs. Sangster's one desire for 1902 is to make this department the most helpful corner to which girls can come freely and fully. I like that. I like that she was giving advice. I feel like this is kind of a antiquated Reddit, you know. This is an Ask Reddit here. I really appreciated the questions. I don't like all of the answers. Yeah, but like the girl who felt that she was overlooked, calling her a baby, and then the girl who was saying, my mother is so old-fashioned, you know, super entitled. But then the person who was complaining about her old-fashioned mother was, you know, told that this is normal and get over it, but didn't call her a baby, now did you? Like, don't insult people, that's just rude. So I didn't like that one. That was probably my least favorite. But the rest of them a lot of them had a really, really good advice. So I appreciated that in general. So I found this very interesting, but I have to admit, I'm getting a little tired of the Ladies' Home Journal. I would kind of like to go back to the Gentleman's Magazine or the London Magazine, whatever you want to call it, and but in a different era. So when we read it before, it was, I think, 1770, something like that, and it was 1768, that's what it was. And so I'd like to move ahead a little bit. I'm going to look at the beginning of the 19th century, so 1800s. Is my next stop. I'm very much looking forward to it. I hope it's going to be fun. I felt like there were more like groundbreaking historical articles in that one. This one is a little more fluff, you know, which is fine. Fluff is fun sometimes, but every once in a while you need to go back to, you know, the more groundbreaking historical articles. And so that's my plan for the next videos, next grouping of videos, I should say. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the Microfiche time capsule today, and I subscribe the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.